Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventure. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/404, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 404th edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name is Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, episode 404, isn't 404 like a website error? Well, it is, but part 2 of the Lake Ontario adventure corrects for the very serious 404 we had with the e-bike. It's still a mystery, as far as you know, but we're recovering and adventuring by bike in amazing towns like Sodas Point and Oswego, New York, exploring apple orchard memories, a historic nuclear power plant, and everything in between. All right, we're in the vehicle, and I am using the good microphone because I may as well at least use that. And yes, we're going to go see my mom. So here is the deal. This is what I have settled on. It's pretty much what I had mentioned before, but I think I've crystallized a bit more on this. And the crystallization is this. Because and you guys could probably sense it, right? I thought something was going sideways. Something was off. And clearly it was this. Did I manifest it or was I sensing it? Who knows? I'm not sure I believe in any of that. But I can't trust this bike. Even if I got this thing going, I don't trust the electric motor on this thing. This is clearly a project for the rest of the year. And in some ways it is liberating. And the liberation is this, is that the e-bike is a project that will continue. It is a project of the Pedal Shift Project, and it will continue to be. But I don't think I can do a big trip on it. This one works. Fantastic. So as a result, I am now going to be abandoning any specific e-bike situation unless and until I can figure out what's going on with it. And I clearly need to learn a lot more, etc., etc., etc. So where does that leave us? On this particular multi-part podcast, really had planned on this being weeks worth of content, and I still intend for it to be, because I looked up all of my various lodgings. It was a great idea sometimes to book in advance because it gives you places you need to get to, but then when something like this happens, or if it was on the road, I knew that I was taking a bit of a risk. And the risk is as follows. Every single night is non-cancelable at this point because I'm right on top of all of them. And so I need to, if I'm not going to eat them, I've got to go to them. And it's a immeasurable number of reservations. What I'm going to do is what I said I was going to do, and that is I'm going to drive my vehicle, which is very nice, and I really enjoy it, and I can get my bike in comfortably, and I can cover it up, and I am going to go out and do bike adventures in all of these places, and I think that is going to be a great way as a compromise. It is obviously going to include some loops. I'm probably going to come up with a variety of different ways to integrate something local or something cool. So I am going to have to do a ton of research now to find where are the coolest places in between all of these different various lodgings. And as a result, I think I should be able to cobble together a really good adventure of Lake Ontario. Now, is it going to be wheels down around Lake Ontario like I had intended, like I was hoping my memorial trip would be? No, it's not possible. If I had the ability to add more days, I would just do this acoustic and go with it. But I'd have to figure out additional lodgings. I'd have to take off more days on the other side. That's just not possible, just with scheduling and obligations and things like that. So in order to rescue this and not eat all of these various hotel and Airbnb stays, some of which are very cool, this is how it's going to be. And I also think that it's going to be a potentially really fun way to rescue this tour. I am beyond disappointed. Really beyond disappointed. I thought that there was something up with this, and that was what was bothering me. But it was masking my excitement to be able to finally do this the way that I wanted to do this. So this is just what it is, and I am going to make do, and I'm going to go see my mom, and then I am going to go figure out, hey, what's a cool ride in and around somewhere between here and Oswego, New York? And maybe it's going to be something on the Erie Canal towpath. Maybe it's going to be somewhere on the lake route that I had looked at. We're going to figure that all out. And I've got plenty of time. The nice thing is that I'm probably going to end up doing a couple of hours of riding every single day. And so what is that? Yeah, about 20-ish miles a day, give or take, maybe 30, we'll see. And it's just, we're just gonna make this into something cool. And I just see a sign for bike route. And it's just telling me, you know what? And it's, by the way, it's pointing the direction I'm going. That is telling me, it's a sign, literally a sign, but also a metaphorical sign that is telling me, you know what? It's gonna be okay. And we're gonna have fun. And hopefully there's going to be some cool adventures for you to be able to enjoy as we go along. And I still am going to be cycling in a whole bunch of places that I've never been to before. Couple of question marks that occur to me off the top of my head. Number one, the first thing that I'm thinking about is, where am I going to, what are these adventures going to be? That's going to be a real question mark, but I've got time. Every evening I can do the research. So I feel like that's something I can dispense of. Number two is very specifically the Toronto day. I cannot, as far as I understand, drive or take my car on that ferry. So I will have to take the bike. So clearly that's going to integrate the bike adventure for Toronto. I have to figure out, and I think I mentioned this before, I have to figure out where I can safely park my vehicle. But I don't think I'm too concerned about that, because if I park 20 miles outside of Toronto or in a garage or some other place where it is a good, safe place, then great, no problem. I'll have the bike, I'll load it up, and then I'm just going to do my Toronto Island adventure. The other thing that's great about this is I get to maybe bike around the city of Toronto a little bit more, which frankly I wasn't going to be able to do. So there's actually some nice hidden features in this bug of a tour that has happened. The other thing that I think is of note, I just biked with this thing without any battery whatsoever, fully loaded, and it was fine. I didn't feel the weight of the bike so much. I'm going to be riding this obviously completely unloaded, so I can do things with some hills and things along those lines as well, except for maybe the Toronto day, because I'm going to have at least some load with me, but clearly will not be carrying big bike batteries or chargers. Yeah, okay, as I talk this out with you, I get a feel of this. I'm realizing it's not the end of the world. It's disappointing, but I'm going to be able to cobble together probably a pretty great ride. Also, I know that this will be physically not nearly as demanding as it was. And so this is going to be actually a better ramp-up ride for a tour that I've got actually later this summer that is an acoustic bike ride on very familiar terrain that I need to be ready for. And so this is a good ride for me to get a little bit more into bike shape. And that's a great thing that's happening as well. All right, so that's where we're at. I think that the next time you'll hear from me will be in Oswego or somewhere around here. I'm toying with doing my day one ride around here because there's a couple of places that are interesting, including a nuclear power plant. Anyone? That might be what we do. So more to come, and I'm starting to get a little bit more excited about how this formerly scuttled adventure is now just going to get backburnered. The Lake Ontario circumnavigation, this is a scouting ride in some ways now, but it's going to be okay. This is going to be fun. We're going to make do. And in some ways, it may even be a little bit superior. Who knows? We will see. More to come. From north of Webster, New York, on Route 250, New York State 250. We have a plan for the day, and it is pretty much what I said before, except I'm going to add in what the ride is going to be. First off, we are going to talk a little bit about Ginna nuclear power plant. I was originally thinking about making this a part of the ride, and then I thought better of it because my recollection is I have ridden by it before, and there's not a lot to do around there. And so as a result, we're just going to take the scenic route on Lake Road, and we'll go by it. And there's just not a lot there. I will say it's a fascinating bit of local history. Now, Ginna is a nuclear power plant, but it is one of the oldest in the country that's operational. And my memory was exactly right. I believe that 3 Mile happened in the very late 1970s. In 1982, if Wikipedia is to be believed, is when Ginna had its own little kind of mini issue where radioactive steam was released, very similar to what happened at 3 Mile Island. And the fascinating part about that is, of course, this is really close to my backyard. 250, the road I'm turning off of onto Lake Road right now. That was stop signs are important. There we go. Yeah, the nuclear power plant is quite a bit of ways from where I was in Fairport, New York at the time, but of course there's certainly a population around here. I just passed Hedges, which is the fancy restaurant right on the lake that I went to for my senior prom. Very exciting. Anyways, so in 1982, I was 10, 11 years old, and it was a big deal. People were pretty scared about that because that was only a few years after a much more robust steam release happened, radioactive steam release happened. So yeah, the Ginna always was the word that we used when we were, maybe I should put it this way, Ginna evoked a little bit of fear for folks my age in this area. And then it's been fine since, apparently, or at least it certainly hasn't had the same types of issues. But again, if Wikipedia is to be believed, it was just a little over an hour and a half of radioactive steam release. Now, of course, it's up here right on the lake, and so presumably the winds ended up dispersing it. I don't think that there was any kind of effects that came out of it. But at the time, nuclear power, and for many decades since then, nuclear power in the United States was feared, quite frankly, because of these accidents. And of course, there was the movie The China Syndrome, which spoke to much more robust issues in a fictional sense of what could happen. But of course, then we had Chernobyl, which I believe, was that in, I can't remember if that was Russia or if that was in Ukraine. I think it's in Ukraine, actually. That, of course, was a much more robust disaster, evocative of what the China Syndrome was. But in any event, a little bit of history. Here on Lake Road, it's a really nice, at least in this part, flat, wide-shouldered biking area. So it would have been good. Oh, by the way, I'm now passing a big, I'll call it a siren horn, but there are still alarms that are set up if Ginna does go nuclear for the local population. So I just passed one of those horns. It feels very old school, but I don't know what those sound like. I assume that it's not unlike a tornado warning in the middle of the US. But yeah, so the US has a unique fear, I'll say, of nuclear power, something that doesn't exist in countries like France and some other European countries, where it is a much more utilized non-fossil fuel form of electric production. Of course, with my e-bike and I'm driving in electric mode in my car, electric production is becoming more and more of something that I think is desired. And so are we going to end up going more towards nuclear power? I don't know. We'll see. But in any event, I thought that talking about the Ginna nuclear plant was an interesting thing to talk about as part of this trip. I'm now feeling like when I do this ride again at some point, I think I will end up being on the Lake Road part. It's nice to be as close as possible to the lake for these trips. So yeah, definitely going to happen. So what is my biking for today? It is going to be another piece that I wasn't originally going to be riding. I was, again, going to be further south. I am going to be going from Beechwood State Park
to Sodus Point. Sodus Point is, as the name evokes, a beautiful point that comes out right into Lake Ontario, and there's a cool little town there as well, and so I might even grab lunch if that works out. Now, of course, this is all going to be completely based on the fact that I think I'll be able to park at the state park and then be able to ride to Sodus Point itself. Not a terribly long ride, but something to get the wheels turning, literally and figuratively, for this, the first day, since I've been yakking so much, because there's been so much that you've had to listen to, including the complete destruction of this trip as it was designed. We're going to make the ride a little bit shorter this time. So that's the plan. That's what's going to happen. It'll be an out and back from Beechwood State Park on Lake Ontario there to Sodus Point, also on Lake Ontario. So we're getting a really good lakefront kind of day, at least for the beginning, middle, and end points. And also a section that I've never ridden, because that's further north than I've ever ridden, further east as well. I've only ridden as far as Pulteneyville. Again, you can look at maps to get this all figured out, but I've ridden this part of the route that I'm currently driving right now on a day trip that I did once back in the day. In fact, I stopped at an orchard. There's lots of apple orchards up here, and I've got family members that have been involved in the apple industry, shall we say. And so, yeah, you can get some fantastic apples in the fall here. In fact, I'm passing by some apple trees right now. Little known fact, it's a very robust apple producing part of the country. All right. We will be passing Ginna nuclear power plant soon. I will not bore you with the details of that because there's not much to see. You can see the plant very distantly. It is well off, and I don't believe you can drive down there. I think that you'll be tackled by security folks because it's a nuclear power plant, and they tend to be very big on security around here for that. But yeah, next you'll hear from me, hopefully, after I park the car and pulled out the bike at Beechwood State Park. So more to come. One of the reasons, of course, as I've mentioned, is this is a bit of a memorial ride. And I've mentioned that we had family who were involved in the apple industry here. And I remember very distinctly, because I just passed it, camping with my dad right on the lake in an apple orchard, because it was one of the orchards that at the time either was owned by family or was managed by family. I don't know which. I was very young at the time, but I remember we had a tent. We were right on the lake in the orchard, and I'm passing by several orchards here that could have been it. It was a one-time thing. We never did it again. What a really cool thing it was, though, because how often do you get to be amongst apple trees a few feet away and then literally be on the lake? It was a really special memory, and I don't know what year it was. I don't remember how old I was, but it was just me and my dad, and I remember him making powdered milk with water and eating cereal or something like that, or maybe he just drank it, but I remembered I did not care for the powdered milk, and I still don't care for powdered milk. But in any event, yeah, a good memory here as we're passing by all of these apple orchards, and literally right on the lake. It's a really beautiful, interesting place. Beautiful part of New York State. For those of you who are like, New York State, it's all about New York City. Oh no, we are about as far away from that as you can get at this point. Very close to the park. Let's see, we're not too far away. Let's see, here we are. We're 13 minutes away as we drive here. And just a fascinating, beautiful place here, this part of the state. All right, thought that was worth mentioning. More to come.
All right, we are at Sodus Point. I decided not to go to the state park because it was not as robust of a parking situation as I had wanted. And it turned out that the road in between was a little less than ideal. So this ended up working out great. Also, I needed a bathroom, and here at Sodus Point, there was a nice little bathroom. And there's plenty of space for me to bike, which is good. So we are all kitted up, and yeah, and so this bike unloaded works perfectly good. And there's many spots for me to get lunch, which I'm excited about. It looks like I beat some of the Memorial Day weekend crowds, which is also good. It feels like Oregon right now. It's cloudy, it's cool. This is a really interesting situation, but of course this time of year it can often be this cool, but it's been unusually cool. Ooh, Jack's Good Time Tavern is a tiki bar. How come I don't remember any of this? This is fascinating. I'm a big fan of tiki bars. I've often wondered whether or not they were still okay, but because there are so many tiki bars around and I have not heard anything to the contrary, that they're still okay. So anyways, beautiful modern looking home here, which is my vibe. I have not been to Sodas Point in decades. It is, you have to want to come here, which is fine, makes sense, but it is just gorgeous and a cute little town when all is said and done, off the beaten path, but a really interesting place. A lot of rentals, a lot of cottage rentals here on the bay side and on the lake side. I guess this is the bay, all bay here. There's two different sort of ways you can get to the bay, because here on the point, as one would expect, it is surrounded by water. And yeah, fun to be back. The Brooks saddle on this bike, it's my first time doing some kind of extended time in this saddle on this bike. I think I do need to adjust it. It feels tipped down a touch. That'll be something I do tonight, I think, to adjust the saddle situation. I still feel like this bike, let me try the horns, the bar ends, they're great. I still feel like I am pushing down. I think this bike would be best served raising a little bit more if this was a fully upright bike, because I think that I'm putting too much pressure on my hands and wrists at this point for long-term stuff. Also, not sure if the electric motor works, as established earlier in this episode. So here we are at the end, basically, of Sodas Point. There's literally a house here at the end here, quite literally. Fascinating. Yeah, I don't remember any of this. It may be a very different place. There's a lighthouse that I can see. I think we might go for a little shot here. We'll not get the person's house in it, but there's a person in a kayak. Oh, this would be amazing if I could get all of this. There's a guy in a kayak out on the bay, lighthouse, and now the bike. Can we do it all? Can we get it all? Guy in the kayak's gonna be a little too small, but I think we got our thumbnail. Maybe we'll get the guy. Why not? Can I get, oh, he's gonna have to go a little faster here for me to get him and the lighthouse in the same shot. Oh, there we go. If I end up posting that, I haven't been posting a lot of my pictures, I've noticed lately. I probably should do more of that, since this is a different kind of trip, isn't it? But yeah, I am, by the way, you may have noticed, I'm using my good mic, and I'm hoping that audio quality is a benefit for everyone. Boy, this would be a heck of a place to live. Yeah, beautiful. Now, homes are not huge, not McMansions. One thing I should mention in between segments here, I did see something that may be a little sad, but hey, I understand economics and all of that. There was at least one spot, and probably two, I would say, where orchards were ripped up and some McMansions were thrown in. And of course, lakeside living, it's lucrative for the developers and the owners of that land. Perhaps I understand that, but I am glad to see that a lot of those lakefront orchards are still in existence. But economic pressures are economic pressures. And that particular area was certainly, there were dozens of homes that were presumably $1 million homes, maybe. So you do the math on that, you have to have a lot of apples to beat that. Oh, interesting. There's a little Home My Speed here for sale. I don't know if I could live in Sodas Point at this stage in my life, but it's a fascinating thought experiment, isn't it? Don't know if my dead cat is stopping the wind. It is a windy day. It would have been at my back because, of course, the time when I would have most wanted a tailwind. But definitely chilly. Definitely is a chilly day, but not too cold. This jacket is good. Oh, by the way, I do have a new jacket because I keep losing rain jackets in my travels, which is unfortunate because they're not inexpensive jackets, but this one actually was sub $100 from a closeout sale by Showers Pass. Again, not a sponsor, never was a sponsor, but I have sung their praises for rain jackets for a very long time. Really nice. Yeah, Sodas Point, man. Pretty cool. Like I said, haven't been here in a really long time. I imagine that tomorrow, being Memorial Day, it will become very busy. In fact, I suspect it will become busy later this afternoon. We are right around lunchtime, so I think I'm going to take advantage of being here and maybe hit one of them tiki bars. Who knows? Yeah, I'll say, just riding this bike a little bit acoustic, it's perfectly fine. There is a heaviness to it. The comfort level, I think, still needs to be addressed. So I think ultimately, I am bummed that this didn't work out, but I do think that this bike needs some real work on the comfort side of things still. I'm not going to say this was for the best because I really wish I could have done this the way I planned it, but hey, at least I've got this. Now apparently I have my choice of tiki bars, which is wild to me that there are 2 tiki bars in Sodas Point. But are they both open? Are either of them open? This is the question. This strikes me as a place that could really blow up. And it looks like it's in the process of blowing up. Meaning, of course, that it's a lot of money could come in here and a lot of interesting bars and whatnot. Okay, is Jack's open? Jack's appears to be open. I think I have found my place. They also have a local AAA baseball team, Rochester Red Wings sign with a Labatt Blue Light sign, which I am very into. What else do we got? Hots Point, which looks... Hots, of course, is the local name for a hot dog. It's an ice cream and mostly an ice cream place, it looks like. And a coffee place with a coffee truck. Let's go explore this a little bit. Yeah. Imprint Coffee Roasting. And the logo has a thumbprint. That's very clever. Freedom Boat Club. Interesting. My folks owned a boat for a period of time when they first moved on the lake. I would have to think that they ended up coming to Sodas Point at some point. Sadly, I will never be able to confirm that because Mother's memory is compromised right now. And my dad is obviously no longer around to ask, so I'll just assume it happened. Because there's a cool little dock here. Would have been a decent amount of time. It's probably about 30 or so miles from where they kept their boat, which is not far from where they lived. And then they could have come here. Maybe gotten a drink at the place that I'm going to for lunch/drink. So now the open question, is there bike parking? Because if there's bike parking, I'll just lock up. If there's not, I have to go back to my car, take the damn thing apart again, and then go from there. But I'm gonna hope that there's a little bit of bike parking. And are we at noon yet? That's 11:45. Yeah, I wonder if they're not gonna be open until noon. Yeah, I would highly recommend Sodas Point if this part of the world is in your travels. I do see a place where I can lock up. It is between where my places are. Oh, and there's an electric charge station. Oh, that's interesting. There's multiple, there's a lot of bike parking. So I may take advantage of that. Even though it would, it's silly because my vehicle's right there, but I think I'm also going to first explore the electric charging situation here. Yes, there is a spot open. I like to take advantage of charging my vehicle when I can, but often it's a question mark of whether it's free or paid. I don't mind paying, of course. Let's see here. It is available ready charging error. Connect the charging cable to your vehicle, launch the EV Connect mobile app. Oh, this is the thing about charging electric vehicles. It is the Wild West. There are so very many places, companies, and the number of apps you end up having to have, it's pretty crazy. So I may, and that's not one I recognize, so I'm taking a pass. But what I am going to do is ride back towards the bar and see if there's bike parking. I do not see anything specific. Tiki bar open, it says. Okay. All right, man. Yeah, I think we're going to have to make this happen. I think my best bike parking is back over here. So I think we're going to do that. I will have to say, this would not have happened but for the complete and utter disaster of my bike not working. So chalk a few things up today for nice experiences. The memory of camping with my dad by one of those apple orchards that I passed. I don't know which one specifically, but that was a really nice memory. Tiki bar in Sodas Point, a town I would not have come to based on my original plan. Yay. All right. So I think I'm going to lock here. I think I'm going to charge up, because why not? And then I think I'm going to go to that tiki bar. And then I'll report back in. To wrap up, I think day one's episode, there's been plenty, and this has been long, and you deserve a break. All right, more to come. So I decided to bike up to Sodas Point Park. So this is actually the town's own park. A beautiful sandy beach, about 24 kites in the air, sunny as heck. Where you going? Yeah, this is not so bad living up here. Yeah, beautiful day. Yeah, this ended up being a good stop on this trip, and not a ton of miles biking, but certainly getting in some good stuff. I'm literally out on the sand right now with the bike. That ends up working out pretty good. And yeah, I think a good close for day one. I will end up in Oswego, New York tonight. And I think that the focus of these next days may be very different than intended, of course. Where I end up doing my cycling, of course, is going to be places that make sense, just like here. Between here and Oswego, there's stuff, but like nothing quite as picturesque as this. So I think that's what I'm going to really focus on, is good experiences with the bike and good times. That's the vibes. And so I think I will end up maximizing the trip. I think we'll also be able to maximize contact with the lake too, which might not have been as possible with the cycling because some of the routes were somewhat far from lake. So now I can focus on getting to waterfront places of note. So tomorrow, day 2, next week for you, tomorrow for me, may not be in New York State. It may be Wolf Island in Canada. We'll have to see. From Oswego, New York, at the POWMIA, I assume the KIA Memorial, which is an appropriate place to be, killed in action on this Memorial Day weekend. I am, I think, on the Erie Canal, or the barge canal. This is the working canal. It is flowing really fast right now. I have biked down here from my hotel because I wanted to get in some more biking here on day 1. And I thought that this would be a good opportunity. The weather's really nice. It's chilly, but like my kind of chilly. I remarked at the bar that I was at that it felt like the Oregon coast, which of course got a blank stare from the person, but so be it. But yeah, Oswego is a much larger town. It is one of those towns that is of a size that doesn't make sense in 2025 standards, but makes plenty of sense because of the canal and the economic engine that it was way back in the day. Go listen to past podcasts on that for more on that. But there also is a state university, the SUNY Oswego, State University of New York, Oswego, which of course is another major driver here. But yeah, it's a beautiful day out. Let's see, we've got a boat with a flashing light on it. I wonder if that is, it's moving pretty fast too. You might be able to catch the soundscape on this. Now it's slowed down, so you won't be able to. It looks like it is with the, I see Oswego on it. And Oswego Police, yes. Okay, law enforcement. Interesting. So I am going to be going on this all the way out to, as far as I can go, to the lighthouse here in Oswego. Of course, this cannot be the canal. It's not, because this is going straight out to the lake, and I know the canal does not hit the lake. This might feed the canal, potentially. Whatever body of water this is. It's actually cool. It goes right through the middle of the downtown area. But yeah, that's my intention, is to go check out that lighthouse. I can see it from here. I might get a picture to share with you all. And then it's a whole bunch of figuring out where I want to go for dinner tonight. There are a bunch of different options. And of course, I've got my car as well, which helps. I also was going to go and get cash for the ferry tomorrow. And I did a little bit of research. And it turns out that the ferry is probably not operating. Which, finding that out now is problematic. It's problematic. It would have been catastrophic had the e-bike been functioning. And here's why. If the e-bike had been functioning, I would have ridden here, and I would have been tired, and I would have been probably doing the research and would have discovered that the way that I was going to cross into Canada was not operating. And it appears to me that the next available one is all the way up to on I-81, substantially further east, going substantially further north, and then you have to loop around to Kingston to get to Wolf Island. It would have probably scuttled the entire trip, all the way down the line. There's just no question about it, unless I could have figured out some alternative fast-forward transportation, which I'm just not sure exists in this part of the state. So really, I don't know. Maybe this was fortunate that this ended up happening. I'm going to be able to still do all the things that I wanted to do. I could have been out hundreds of dollars, and I would have been really kind of, what am I going to do? It was going to be 82 miles, I believe, to ride from here and take that ferry. Now, I have a car, so obviously I can go up and around to Kingston and take the free ferry from Kingston, which is running to Wolf Island. It has to. The poor people in Wolf Island would have been stranded otherwise. But they're on the Canadian side, so it makes sense that would be running. But yeah, I'm sitting here going, wow, I'm fairly fortunate. I was disappointed in how things went. I would have been extra disappointed if that had been the case. And what's crazy is that ferry runs during the summer, and it is Memorial Day weekend, the traditional start of the summer. I didn't even think for a moment it wouldn't be running. But yeah, it is not happening, it looks like. 2 years ago, it didn't even start until August, and I just discovered that. So yeah, these ferries that you rely on, boy, it's a good idea to make sure that they are up and running. And it appears that this isn't. So I'm not even going to bother to try going to that particular town tomorrow. My thought process was that I'm going to drive as close to the route as I possibly can. Now in Canada, that's going to be tough because there's a bunch of trails that I was going to be on, so that's not going to be possible. But yeah, it's an issue. But I have the solution for that. So for the remainder of today is going to be another little lighthouse adventure, making 2 lighthouses here. Cue the statistics later. And then figuring out dinner and then really mapping out the next few days. I think that next week for you, you're going to be getting a wonderful little bike tour of Wolf Island. There are 3 separate routes. I think that's very clear. That's what I'm going to do, and just mapping that all out. And then figuring out what that next day is going to be as well. So every day that I'm going to be riding, I'm also going to have an eye towards the next day.
But yeah, today ended up being pretty good. And of course, with the revelation here at the end that the second day was going to be problematic, had I been just on the bike, I'm feeling a little bit more fortunate about things. All right, I'm going to head on over to that lighthouse, and maybe we'll check in one more time. From the Cahill Pier in Oswego, New York. It's actually, if you look in the right direction, Oswego's kind of picturesque. Got a couple of really great pictures of there's a sailboat, the lighthouse. Actually pretty good. There's a maritime museum here. Turns out that body of water that I thought was initially the canal and then knew it wasn't is the Oswego River, which makes sense, Oswego, and also makes sense given its flow and directionality. Sorry for the wind. I did not bring my good mic on this one. You're suffering through the usual nonsense. But very pretty and picturesque. I will tell you, if you do not care for snow, Oswego in the winter is not your place. This is a place that will, when the winds come from due west, which they frequently do, this is a town that will get hammered by lake effect snow, and it is something to behold. But yeah, it's definitely like so many different towns in Western, and now I would call this central New York. They are bigger than they seem to make sense to be because they used to be bigger deals, and the infrastructure is different. But yeah, a lot of just natural beauty here, but also there's a nuclear power plant over there, a big one, bigger than Ginna. I don't know which one that is, but it's bigger, and it's letting off non-radioactive steam, which is as they are wont to do because that's how they make the electricity. There's also a twin stack here, which looks to be more traditional power plant. I don't know for sure, but that's what it appears to be. It's some kind of manufacturing. I could see it from Point Sodas. Conceivably, if Point Sodas had big enough landmarks, you would be able to see it from here. Very interesting here in a beautiful, I will say beautiful Oswego. I think that's going to be it for the day in terms of adventuring. How many miles have I done? You'll hear that in statistics. Not very many, but definitely a wide variety of things, and definitely have some pictures to prove it. Having the bike has been really great. And now I'm starting to see the benefits of how this trip is going to go. I also have started to realize the enormity of that ferry not existing, how that would have changed things. And I think that the change would have been the following. I would have gotten here probably tired with some potential bike situations. And then I would have ended up realizing, hopefully I would have looked it up. If I hadn't, I would have gone all the way there and been stonewalled. And I would have been in real trouble then. Just guessing how I would react in this situation is my day two would have been turning right around and bicycling all the way back to where I started, getting my car and driving all the way to Wolf Island like I'm going to do tomorrow. And basically doing this trip the way that I am currently doing it. So in some ways, here at the end of day one, I am realizing that this trip, the way it's happening, was meant to be. Really fascinating how that is. But I'm definitely super glad that I've got the bike because I'm 100% going to be integrating in longer bike rides in the next few days because I will have plenty of time. Because getting to these hotels, it's silly to just go straight to my lodging because I'll be there too early. Tomorrow, next week for you, is going to have a great adventure on Wolf Island, and I'm really looking forward to that. And again, we're going to get some miles underneath us just to explore and enjoy the natural beauty of what is to come. And so many days ahead of on that. All right, that will close it out for real this time. At the end of day one, a stressful day. A day where you, in the bike adventuring spirit, have to call audibles, and you do that. And sometimes those audibles end up being exactly what you want and maybe exactly what you were meant to do. So the trip continues. We will be entering Canada tomorrow. Very exciting. By car instead of by bike, unfortunately, but that's fine. And we will just make that all happen. All right. See you next week. Statistics. Miles biked, about 10. Nuclear power plants, 2. Tiki bars in Sodas Point, 2. That's stunning, 2 of them. Kite flying festivals attended, 1. Misidentified rivers, 1. Sorry, Oswego. Flats, 0.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.